Hey everybody, I want to introduce myself by doing this quick tutorial on Inkscape because I'm going to design a new logo, very first logo for this website. You might hear my cat in the background. So I'm using Inkscape, which is free open source software, and I'm going to start by going to the file menu and I'm going to set my page size. I'm going to come down from the file menu, go all the way down to document properties, and you'll notice that on the menus you do see you got some shortcuts, so Shift Control D under Windows will open that up. But the great thing about Inkscape and other open source software is that it's usually available for Mac and Linux and Windows, and they're all similar. What I'm usually going to do for on-screen designs, and usually for print too, I'm going to move down to my display units to be in pixels, and that you can see instantly changes pixels on the ruler. So the changes appear instantly, although I do have some standard page sizes to choose. And I'm going to change my custom size to pixels. And here's where I can change the width and the height. And I'm going to make this image suitable for Instagram, but I'm not on Instagram anymore, so I'm just going to make this 1080 by 1080. So that is the standard size of a nice post, and you'll see that it's a perfect square with a 1-to-1 ratio. I am going to make sure that this has a checkered background because I know I'll be using some transparent background. I don't want to have a full transparent screen right now. And that's all the settings I want to have. I can, if I don't like this border showing up, I can just remove that check mark, but I want to be able to see that little rectangle. So now that I've set my properties, I'm going to close it. And of course, I want to save the file so that any auto saves will go to the same place, but it'll also make me a little bit happier about saving and having a backup. By minimal, I mean minimal. So I'm going to come over here. So we have my tools on the left-hand side, have some manipulation, some customization up on the top underneath the toolbar. Underneath the menu bar, and over on the right we do have some panes that'll pop up about different features for different features. I can close those off, but usually you'll see what was there is the default setting. Now these rulers here on the side, they could be up here depending on how you have your Inkscape set up, but I'm just going to leave them on the side there. And maybe if you want to see more tutorials, why don't you subscribe down at the bottom, and I will send out some messages about the next time, or you'll receive a message when videos come in, when a new video gets posted. I'm going to come over here back to the menu, and I'm going to the menu toolbar. I'm going to click on text so I can create and edit text objects. So Inkscape is like the free version of Illustrator. So I can create my text and then I can change it to paths a little bit later on. And I'm going to make a very simple logo. I'm going to start with lowercase design. So there's an M, and my default font here is set to Magnolia. The font I currently have active is Magnolia Bold, and I got Magnolia from Tila at everytuesday.com, so check out every-tuesday.com. There'll be a link down in the description, and because it's a fantastic font. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to make these a little bit bigger here. I'm going to go with 1 inch. We all know, or you should know, you might not know, typical screen dots per inch is 72, so these will be 1-inch letters. That's fine. But what I'm going to do, because I can't really see my text all that well, is I can press number 5 to zoom straight into my full screen. So there, not full screen, but it takes up the whole screen. And so you will see that there are a number of, using the number keys, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I can zoom out and zoom into different zoom factors. So I've got one letter. I'm going to now make that, it's still editable. So this is still a font, it's editable text, but I can click on it, click and drag the arrows and make it a little bit bigger. So that's about what I want. I'm gonna make another one, but instead I will just copy this, paste it over. That's Control V shortcut. And I can double click to edit this, and now instead of the M, I have Minimalist logo. I need the letter L, so that'll be nice. And I'm going to come over here. That's still a little bit small, so I'm just going to press Escape because I clicked in the wrong spot. I'm going to hit Control V, and that'll paste my last still thing that's on the clipboard, the letter that was still on the clipboard. Design D, that's a nice little D. And I'm going to pick this up and move it a little bit. Of course, the D's and the L's have higher ascenders, and this funky, awesome font has quite the descender on that D. Her scripting fonts are really, really amazing. But and I've taken her font design course, which is also quite good. But one of the other skills you can remember about Inkscape, probably going over too much here, but Control D to duplicate. Now there's a copy of the M on top of the lowercase, top of the lower M. Let's change that color so you can see it. So down at the bottom, I've got some colors I can choose from. And you can also see that the status bar right about here tells me details. So right now I've got Magnolia text at 426 point, and I can scroll over to see different colors and different features if I hold down click or shift click, because I do have fill and stroke. So the red L was right on top of that black L because I used duplicate. Double click on it because it's still editable text, and it's a blog. So that's what we do. Aha. So now, as a design, if I can now, so I'm just going to take this. This is a selected letter. I'm just going to click once, and it allows me to fill it. I could right-click and choose Outline, set stroke to be green, but I don't want green. I can hit Control-Z to remove the stroke. Now, I do have to change all the fonts. That decision will be made a little bit later. What do I want? It's minimalist. I want something simple. I want something plain. We'll go, the Eternal Helvetica Arial discussion. Control, not discussion. Controversy. Right. Now, I do have my font selected, my letter selected. I'm going to go to the text menu, and if I click text and font, it'll bring up a text and font window, which is similar to what I would find if I were to simply double click on the font. Now, if I double click on the font and select the letter M, I can come here to do my drop down list, and there is a bit of a preview on the side. I can choose bold, and I have my outermost text element, that's the size, and line height values. This is my spacing between baselines, and then over here we have superscript and subscript, and I have my spacing between my letters, my spacing between words, and my horizontal kerning, and some vertical shifting, and also character rotation. So that's actually pretty cool, but a little bit more advanced. But the horizontal kerning, you have to make sure you place your cursor in between the two letters, but I don't have a letter pair here, so I'm not going to kern anything. But I do want to come over here. This is where I do a lot of my other text settings. I'm going to come on down here, and auto rich was a nice one. And if I see that there's this little preview here, change my font size, going to keep it at 144. That's nice, but it's still a little too swooshy for me. Of course, could go Arial. That's looking nice because of the way that we have thin arch at the beginning of this stroke. Not curls. Definitely not curls, right? Am I right? And what was I going to do? There must be a Helvetica here somewhere. So if you're a designer, I know you're going to want Helvetica. Helvetica Black. In this case, I don't like that. Helvetica Black. Well, you know, it's not that bad. Impact? No, not the impact. Imprint? That's nice. Imprint? Nope. Informal Roman, also nice. Ink free? Nope. Nope. How many times do you guys, how long does it take for you to choose a font? I'm going to speed through this process or probably pause the video. I do like Tahoma for a moment, but if I look back at this one over here, I can tell that this is my preview for Tahoma because I haven't set it yet, haven't applied it, and over here I can see that the current selection is actually Helvetica Black Heavy because the way I've installed some of my fonts, it doesn't really record everything properly with Inkscape. You have to make sure that you install fonts for all users, which is a special technique I can show you in another video. I do like the way the roundness under the arch of the M is in Helvetica as opposed to the little kind of angle. It's more harsh here under the Tahoma. Let me see a Tahoma in the other letters. You know what, that's not bad. It's good enough for now, anyway, until I change my mind in the future. So I got Tahoma. It's not too bad. It's not too bad. Gonna have to make these a little bit bigger, but it's nice. Of course, with L, you're not really gonna get too much exciting going on with an L, a lowercase L especially, for logo. I do kind of like the balance between the D and the B. even though it's at the bottom, and I had some problems with my double dagger logo that I can explain some other time in the future, because putting two Ds together was not really that smart. But these ones look pretty good, so let me resize these. I'm going to select Control, or press the Control key, click, not the Control key, it's the Shift key in Inkscape, and I now have selected all the items. I'm going to move to the triangle at the bottom, or the arrow at the bottom, hit Control to do Shift uniformly, scale it about that big, which looks good to me, and I can stick that back in the middle by clicking as a whole set. Now I'm just going to move these a little bit inward. How am I going to arrange these? They do have very short ascenders, don't they? Move over to the right a little bit. This is going to look bad as a first try, but let's do it anyway. So I'm going to take these two, the two letters, the M and the L. What I can do is I can align my objects either to themselves or to the selection, and I'm not going to treat it as a group. If I treated this selection as a group, then it would align the M and the L together, but I actually want them as a selection. I want the baselines, bottom edges, and now aligned, so that's great. Now they are both aligned and I can move them back and forth. So those are aligned, and I'm going to line up my B and D. Boom, they're aligned. And I can align these to the center by doing center on the vertical axis. So that's what it looks like on the center of the vertical axis. And I'm going to get something equally wonky if I do it that way. No, that looks pretty good. And I'm squinting my eyes and moving backwards. I can also press the negative key on the keyboard, the minus key. Yeah, this is going to look good. I can zoom in with the plus key, or I can move over here to the menu items and I can press F3 for zooming in and zooming out. And that's my zoom. Now I'm zooming in, but I'll just go back to selecting F1 to select objects. So they do have, the Inkscape does have an unusual set of shortcut keys, but you get used to it, or you just ignore them. What do I want to do with these letters? No, that's pretty much all I was looking for. Of course, it's pretty plain that way, and I'm going to go to my layers, Control Shift L will bring up the layers panel, and I am on sort of on a base layer here. I'm going to start a new layer above the current layer, and I'll call this one the border. No, this will be my background. And I'm going to say below the current layer, hit add, there's my background. Make sure that's active. If I hide this, there's my letters. So all my letters are on layer 1, so I can double click this and call this letters. Good. So now I got my background. On my background, I am going to draw a big square. It covers the whole sheet. Click select. Click this little guy here, which is lower to the back end, lower to the bottom. Send to back, essentially. I'm going to right click this little X, which means remove the stroke, and I want to turn it white, and it was in the background anyway, and that's exactly what I wanted. Now we will notice that this rectangle is much bigger than 1080 by 1080, and it's a rectangle and not a perfect square. I don't care, because when I export it, I'm going to choose just to export the page anyway, so it'll be fine. But the last touch I do want to do is now I can come back to my letters level, my letters layer, and I am going to make a new layer. We do have opacity, and it is possible to do lots of cool things in some blend modes in Inkscape, which is fantastic. I am a newfound fan of non-destructive editing, which is great. Not quite the same thing here in Inkscape. We'll talk about that some other time. Display in my layer name. This is the border. This is the border, right? Because it's a simple logo. I'm now defaulted to color white. Make sure I'm selecting on that border. I'm white, but I don't want white. I gotta go black. I only work in black, dark gray. Leave a comment if you recognize that quote. I can control to make a square or integer ratio. I'm looking down at the bottom and reading the tooltip, or the status bar. Shift to draw around the starting point, but I want perfect square, so there we go. There. Of course, I want to right click and say no fill. So I right click on the little red X and say set fill. Now that's a left click, but now my stroke, set my stroke to black. And I can come here to change the opacity, And by double clicking on that, oh, it instantly brought me to the stroke style. So this is Control-Shift-F, this is the fill and stroke. I can choose fill, I can choose the stroke colors from all my different color settings, or I can set my RGB and my opacity or my transparency values, and I'm going to set this to pixels. How thick do I want this? I want this to be pretty meaty. That's not too bad. Is there a mathematical relationship between your letters and your border size? Interesting thing to think about that. So I could change some joins, change the caps, you know, because the rounded corners are the most beautiful shape in the world, right? Where else does that come from? But we don't want rounded squares today. Ooh, do I want that? Maybe on one of the corners. Oh, that'd be a nice little change, wouldn't it? No, I want squares. Okay, we'll just leave the miter the way it is. Now that that's been done, I'm going to take this shape and I'm going back to align, center it within the page. Boom. This is my center on vertical and center on horizontal. So that's centered within the page, even though I can't really tell with the background, that's centered within the page. And now I can take my letters, going on to the letter shape, which are now locked. Ooh, notice I locked the letters. Let's unlock the letters. Select those letters, boom. And as a group, align relative to the page, as a group, center it, and move it down. There. Now let's unclick that, go back to my layers panel, turn on my background, and then move out a little bit and see what it looks like. Oh, the one thing you got to worry about is I had selected my background layer and then I started pressing the escape, the negative sign, and it's actually moved to the input box. Try and remember to click back on your main layer, your main view screen, if you want to move in or out with the plus and minus sign. Not looking too bad. Actually, I know it looks horrible, but to improve one last little thing, I'll just do an extra line here, but it's got to be way thinner. It's got to be way thinner. That's what I'm thinking. You want elegance, and you want stylishness. But, ooh, that's nice too. The one thing you got to be careful of is if this logo was, you know, I already said it's for print, right? But what if it wasn't for print? Or sorry, I've already said it's for on-screen. But if this was for print or being, oh, I don't know, t-shirt design, then I'd have some problems. I don't want to make my lines too thin for screen printing or for vinyl cutouts or any other kind of stuff. So you got to know your way around a printer too. And you got to know where this is going to be used for. Oh, so treat as a selection as a group. That doesn't matter. It's only one thing. React to the center of the page. Center of the page. That should be good. Looks like I centered it pretty well. And that's the one I'm going to use. So look at that. Forgot to save through all this work. File save or Control S. And now I can move to the export window or Control Shift Export, E for export. Just pops me right here anyway. I don't want to export the drawing. I do want to export the whole page, which will be that border that I had chosen. And we see here where things get a little weird with Inkscape and the way things are exported, because right now my 1080, which was at 72 pixels, is now at 300 dpi and 3000 across. What I really want to do, this is millimeters again, go back to pixels. This is what I wanted. This can't stay that way. So I don't particularly care right now. I'm just going to come in and type 1080 and it'll realize that by default Inkscape seems to work at 96 dots per inch. I'm not really familiar with anything else that why I would change that or fix it or move it. But anyway, I do notice that when I design t-shirts and I move it up to 300 dpi, I get really large images, of course. So I'm going to export this as, and this one is going to be called the MLDB logo. Hit save. Now it hasn't been exported. I've just chosen its location. The D could probably move a little bit, but not much. Actually, I think it's fine. Well, I'm going to try. Does that look any better? Does that look any better? That does look better. Hold that and hold Shift to click on that one. Make sure that these are still aligned, which is to the selection area, not to the page, and align the baseline, not as a group. There, that should work out well. And now I can simply choose everything else, not the drawing, the page. Make sure that that's always selected again, and I can simply hit export. Woo! There, exported as a logo. Control S or File Save, and we can take a look at our logo and upload it to the site. Now, I did want to mention that I'm currently trying out Strikingly as a new website design host, and it's actually not too bad. I'm very impressed with it so far. So this is a little bit of a starting blog that I've got going on. They had a lot of, if I come over here to edit and I choose replace, even though I can choose a bunch of their really cool logos from their icons from their library, they have some stuff available as a pro, but they do have a really good selection of things that you can choose from, even with their free choosings. But I can go to images that I've uploaded already, or I can simply upload a new image, and I'm going to upload the image that I want. There we go, I'm uploading things. Oh, that didn't take too long, did it? Oh, yeah, there it goes. Cancel. There we go. Now my logo is placed in my website, and I can publish my website. But that's it. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed that little look at using Inkscape for a logo.